Hello and welcome to the channel. On today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut and sew a Victorian corset with busk gauging. So if it's your first time viewing my channel, please hit on the subscribe button. Let's dive right into today's video. So first, we're going to start with the front pattern, and I added ½ inch all the way around and I ironed a stay on it. So for the center piece, I cut it on fold. You can cut yours into two and join. So as you can see, I ironed a stay on it. On the second pattern, I added ½ inch all the way around and I also ironed a stay on it. This is to give strength or stability to your fabric. So after that, I'm just going to go ahead to stitch it up with ½ inch. And on this pattern also, I added ½ inch round, but by the side I did not add. That's the side we've already added the ½ inch for the joining allowance. Now I'll go ahead and I will place my pattern and I'm going to stitch it up with ½ inch. So remember, whatever you're doing to this pattern, you're also going to do it to your lining. The only difference from the front and the back is that at the back I ironed gum stay on the lining piece. Moving over to this pattern also, I went ahead to add ½ inch round the first pattern, number 1 pattern, ½ inch round it, and I ironed a stay on it and I'll open it up this way. So be careful when you're placing it so that you don't misplace your pattern. On the second pattern, I'm going to go ahead to open it up and I also ironed a stay. Go ahead to add ½ inch round to that pattern. Now on the third pattern, which is also going to be the last and will be on the sides of your pattern, I added ½ inch on top, in front and at the lower part. Do not add ½ inch by the side because we've already added that when we were drafting. That is the ½ inch for stitching allowance we added by the side. So I'll go ahead and I will stitch up this pattern this way. So now I've gone ahead to stitch this up and I'm going to use my tailor's ham to iron it. So for this front pattern, you can go ahead and add your wording to it, but for mine I did not add because my bust is on the smaller size. My bust is 33. So I went ahead to heat up my iron a bit and I'm just going to show you an example of what I mean. Go ahead to iron your sewing allowance open. You're going to be doing this in all your pattern, and just like I was saying before, I did not add wording to this because my bust is on the smaller size. My bust is 33. Now if your bust is more than that, please go ahead and add wording to this part. Go ahead to pad it. Now I'm just going to go ahead to iron the rest inside because there's no source of light to iron this out here. I just went ahead to heat up my iron just to show you what I mean by ironing your Victorian corset. So before I also forget, go ahead and also iron from the front part after ironing your seam allowance, and make sure you're making use of your tailor's ham or tailor's ball for this. Now also for the back pattern, you're going to go ahead to iron out your seam allowance just like we did for the front, and I'll place this on the fabric because it is flat and I'll iron it out. So you're going to iron out the joining that you have at the back this way, and when you're ironing, please be careful not to use a very hot iron. You can just use something that is a bit warm, because as you can notice at this point, my iron actually melted the stay that I ironed at the back of my fabric. So when you're ironing this part that has stay, make sure that you don't use any iron that is too hot. So I'll go ahead and repeat the same process at the other side, and after ironing at the back, I'll go ahead and iron it from the front. So after I'm done ironing the back, this is what I have, and I also ironed this part the same way. So now to cut out the padding for the Victorian corset, just like I said, this is the same way you're going to cut the one in front of your dress. That is for people that are padding their own. Make sure that you pad yours. My bust is on the small size, that's why I did not pad mine. So now this is my wording and I'm going to use this to cut this out. So I'm going to go ahead to cut directly at my underbust, and at this point I'll be adding ½ inch. So at this part that I have in front, I'm not really going to add any half inch. You can just add 0.25 because you're going to place this on top of your dress at the upper part, and when you're joining you don't want to have too much bulginess because you're also going to go ahead to trim it off. So this is what I have, and I'll be ironing it to the center of my dress. So at the side, I'm going to use this for the sides. You're going to be cutting out too. Now you're going to also add half inch in front, add half by the side, and you're just going to go ahead and in front of this part you're also going to add half inch unlike the other part, and go ahead to trace it to the lower part. Now you're going to place this on the shiny part and you're going to iron it to your fabric. So after I'm done padding it, and this is what I have on this part of my dress. Now we want to start sewing the bust caging. Now the first point you need to mark is your nipple to nipple point, that part that your bust cut across. You're going to mark it out. Then you can go ahead and mark at least 1 inch 1.5 underneath it. So you can do more sewing on this, that is if you want it to be more structured. So at the upper part also, which is the neckline, you're also going to mark that, and make sure that you note the center of your dress. You're also going to mark that. So between this part I have at the center and this joining, I'm going to mark. Go ahead and mark at the joining. Repeat the same thing at the other side. So after that I'll continue marking at the center of this part. So we are marking out the part that we want to sew our bust caging on. So at the armhole, you can go ahead and sew that down also if you want. The more boning you add on it, the more structure that you have on your corset. So now we want to go ahead and sew out this part first. So I went ahead to just cut this out, and we are going to stitch on the side. So there's that part on your sewable boning that you can stitch on. We are going to go ahead to stitch on those parts. I'll stitch here, stitch on this part, and I'll also stitch at the boning at the center, that is the joining. So when you're stitching, if you're having issues with the curves, you can go ahead to remove, there's this tiny strand inside your boning channel, you can go ahead to sew. So I've gone ahead to sew, and I'm just going to show you what I have already. So I'm going to be showing you a little clip on how to stitch this down. So this is what I have at this point. I'm stitching up this part, and after stitching I'll go ahead and stitch the other part of it this way. So you want to continue stitching till you're done sewing all these parts, and I'll move ahead and also sew the other parts of the boning to the dress. So if you're a beginner and you're finding it difficult to sew on this, please just go ahead and roll it a little, sew it gently, do not rush, unless you're not going to get a perfect curve. So after I'm done sewing, this is what I have. So go ahead and place on those lines, and you're going to stitch on it also, just like we stitch on this other part. You're just going to follow and stitch. After stitching, you're also going to stitch the under bust and the neckline of that corset. And after stitching on one side of the boning, you're also going to go ahead and stitch on the other side of the boning. And just like I said, if you're finding it difficult, you can just stitch on it gently and take it easily until you get to the end. So after I'm done stitching, I'll stitch on the other side and also sew the other boning on it. So this is what I have. Now I'm going to stitch up the neckline and the lower part. So this is what my bust caging is looking like at this point. So I've sewn the neckline and the under bust, so this is what it's looking like, and as you can see, it's standing firm. So the next step is to go ahead to pad it or to flesh it. So you can use two materials. It's either you use your wadding or you use your fiber. So if you have a big bust, it is advisable to use a fiber, But if your bust is on the small size, just like my own, I just have my bust is just 33, so I'm just going to use my wording to do that. And before doing that, go ahead to add your hemming gum. Even when you're using your fiber, just add your hemming gum, place it, trace out exactly what you have at those points, and you're going to place and iron out. And as you can see, the neckline of my dress is actually rough, so I forgot to flesh my Victorian corset, so I had to go ahead and loosen the upper part. So now this is it, and you're going to use your tailor's ham to iron it out very well. So now we are trying to go ahead and rule out our line for our boning channels. So I'm going to place my ruler, connect and draw a straight line at that point. After I'm done drawing that, I will also repeat by the side, and you're also going to bone the joining you have at the side where you have the nipple to nipple joining. You're also going to bone there. So at this side, you're going to also create a boning channel there. So you can use any boning channel method of your choice, and I'm just going to go ahead and explain too. So for the first method, you're going to go ahead to take the fabric you want to use, and you're going to wrap it on it. So it's either you iron it out or you sew the fabric and then pass the boning into it this way, and you're going to place and stitch. So the next method is just to go ahead and place, and you're going to top stitch on both sides. So do any one of your choice that you find easier to do. So now I'm done creating my boning channels, as many as I want, and this is what I have at this point. So next, I'm going to go ahead to pass boning to all the boning channels that I have made, and I'm using a resin boning. You can also use a plastic boning. So this is the sewable boning or resin boning. So now after passing it, you're going to leave about 0.5 inches at the top and at the lower part. And when you're passing your boning, please go ahead to tape it up. I had difficulties passing my boning through my boning channels because the boning was actually poking my dress. So I'll go ahead and I'll pass boning to all the boning channels, and I'll also repeat that for the back pattern. I'm also going to add boning channels to that part. So after adding the boning channels, you're going to go ahead to add boning to the back pattern. So if you notice, I added only one boning channel to the back because the other part is close to my lacing bar. So after passing my boning, I'm just going to go ahead to turn it up with the lining. So to turn it with the lining, you're going to go ahead to stitch the part going to the lacing bar area and the upper part. So for the side going to the side of the dress, which is this side, you're going to leave it open. So after doing that, you're going to join the neckline of your dress together. That is the front and the back with 1/2 inch, and you're going to notch it. So when I was recording, I didn't know that my camera wasn't recording at that point. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my tailor's ham, and I'm going to iron it out. And to iron it out, you're going to make use of your tailor's ham, place it under this way, and you're going to go ahead to iron. So I'll go ahead and iron this inside, and after I'm done ironing, this is what I have. Now we are going to join the sides to the main pattern. So you're going to open it up this way and also open this side this way. You're going to take the middle, place it together, and you're going to stitch. So you're going to stitch the lining part together with 1/2 inch, and on the other side you're going to place it and you're going to stitch with 1/2 inch also at this part. So I'm going to be repeating this for the both sides of my dress. So this is it after I'm done joining, and I'm just going to go ahead to also iron it out, and this is how the inside is looking like. So next we want to go ahead to create our lacing bar area. To create the lacing bar area, I'm going to mark 1/2 inch from this point to the end, and after marking that, I'm going to mark about 0.75 for the eyelet part. You know, you're going to insert an eyelet to this so you want to mark about 0.75, but you can use 0.5 if you're okay with that, but I prefer using 0.75 because of the size of the eyelets that I might be using. So after that, I'm just going to go ahead and mark another half inch at this point. After marking the first half inch, mark 0.75 inches, and you're going to mark another 0.5 inches. So you're going to be inserting two boning at this part. So if you have a plastic boning, go ahead to use it. Is better to use that at this point. So I'm going to stitch on both sides, and I'll bring it and show you what I have. So this is what my dress is looking like after sewing that, and now I'm going to be passing my boning through these boning channels that I have made at this point. So I'm using my sewable boning. So if you have a plastic boning, please go ahead to use that at this point. It's going to give your corset this more stability at this part, and after that you will leave that 0.75 inches and you insert at the other part of your boning channel. You want to go ahead and also pass your boning channel to this other part. So remember, you have two lacing bar area at this point. This is just to make sure that when you lace, your corset is going to stand firmly. You can even use a double boning method, which is after passing this boning, you're going to go ahead to pass the plastic boning. So if you notice at the end, my stitch is losing, and I'm just going to go ahead to stitch it back and pass my boning right back to it. So at the lower part, we are going to go ahead to pipe it down with this fabric. So it's about 1.5 inches. So at this part, I'm just going to wrap it up at this point, and after doing that, I'm going to stitch with 1/2 inch at this point at the lower part. And after stitching with 1/2 inch, I'm just going to go ahead to cut out the excess, flip it to the other side and stitch just the same way you attach bias to your dress. So after I'm done stitching corset, so at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and join us in our next video. Thanks.